welcome to the Self-Storage Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, as always, Thaddeus Campbell. So grateful today to be joined by one of the first people I was introduced to in the self-storage business. And like with everyone in self-storage, has been nothing but incredibly kind to me. Very well-known developer, has developed self-storage sites, certainly all up and down the East Coast. We'll dig in a little bit more on some specifics, but Mitch Feldman, just want to say thank you for taking some time and coming and talking to us.
Thanks for having me. If I'm one of the first guys that you met, I'm surprised you're still in the business.
That is the furthest thing from the truth. And it's something I kind of wanted to start out with. My first trade show was 2022 in Orlando, and you guys had a booth, and I had been introduced to you. One of the guys I was working with at the time, Alex Rogers, had gotten to know you guys. He was still brand new. He told me to give you guys a call and connect. I had talked to Matt, and we were putting sites in front of you guys. Yeah. And I met you guys at the trade show, and I just, listen, I didn't know anything, man. I didn't know what square foot per capita meant. I didn't know what ROI meant. I didn't know what IRR meant. I knew none of this. I was like brand spanking new.
Look at you now. Look at you now.
I can actually say those things and kind of know what I'm talking about. But you guys were nothing but kind to me. And I say you guys, Matt Beggs, who is there, and Jordan, your son, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And you specifically, who have, listen, you have an impressive track record in this industry. I want to ask you, why is it that you would treat somebody like you don't even know me from a hole in the wall? And I'm going to be honest, you treated me like I was the president of another company that you'd been doing business with for 10 years. What is the philosophy behind that? I'd like to understand that and why you treat people the way you do in such a positive way.
That's nice. I think, I think it's, generally it's my nature, but I think also the storage industry I found has been very helpful for me. So, 25 years ago when I started, I didn't know what I was doing. I showed up in Las Vegas at a trade show, and it was an SSA or an ISS or one of these shows. And I didn't know anybody. And I met guys like, at that time, Mike Neely and Chico and Leclerc, and guys who were, and even like, just guys who have been around for a long time in the business. And I didn't know anything. I was just like you when you started, and I had no idea what storage was or what it was going to be. And they talked to me, and I was talking to guys like Mike Burnham from Storage Mart, who at that time was, building like he is now again today. And he gave me his cell phone number, and I met, I met everybody, and it was just amazing. And everyone was so nice to me. And I think that's how that's how I was trained in the storage industry. And that's how I treat people. And so I think, 20 years from now, when you're meeting someone who's green, you're going to be doing the same thing. So I think what goes in comes back out, and it's, you pay it forward.
I love that. And listen, it's something it's ironically, I talk about this quite frequently. I was lucky enough to have Alex Burnham on the podcast, and because Mike has sat down with me in the same way. He didn't give me his cell phone, but Alex gave me a cell phone. So it was a generational thing. This is such a thing in self-storage. I guess I'd ask, what do you attribute that to in this industry? I've been in other industries. I don't know about you, but this is my fourth or fifth industry I've been in. Never anything even remotely like the camaraderie and the kindness that I've seen in self-storage. What do you think makes that happen in this industry?
Look, storage was the ugly duckling of real estate. It was a sort of a second class industrial product back in the day. And I think that banks and lenders didn't know what we were, and it was harder to get loans, and we were paying higher interest on loans, back then. And we were more scrutinized, and we were dirty, and it's changed. So I think that we all sort of grew up knowing what we could be and what we really were. And I think the rest of the real estate industry got used to who we are. Now we're our own food group, and we're a great food group, and everyone wants to be us. So I think that we
restaurant now people are.
I think that's we kind of all recognize that we're all in it together. And at that time, they were passing lien laws, and they were still fighting a lot for statutory laws in terms of self-storage, removal of tenants and not making it real evictions, and where it was bailments, and yeah, there was a lot of political action going on, and just everything. We were changing zoning at that time on parking requirements, um, utilization, use, traffic, all kinds of things, and it became an industry. So I think we're all fighting in that together, and we're all experiencing the same thing. So we grew together.
I think that there's so many places to go from that conversation, but I wanted to pick one thing apart there, which is even now, as you go to different municipalities, it's not even called self storage in every, like, there's different names for what it is going
Right.
from. So I can only imagine you've
Yeah.
been doing this now for a good long time. Ironically, actually, we got on this topic of people in the industry and how kind they are. I typically start when I do my podcast and I bring people on is I always like to pick people's brain on how they even got into this space in the first place. What got you started in real estate specifically, because self-storage is such a niche place.
Yeah.
How did you get into this industry?
So it's funny. I always knew I wanted to be in real estate since I was a teenager. I studied for my real estate sales license when I was 17 years old. The month I turned in September, when I turned 18, I was signed up to take the test, the sales test. And so I majored in real estate in college. I was just a real estate junkie from day one.
Yep.
I majored in real estate. I went to law school. I concentrated in real estate. I took all the LLM classes in real estate. I got a broker's license, and I just wanted to be in real estate. And of course, I had no money, so I couldn't buy anything, and I couldn't develop anything, and I didn't know what to do, and no one would give me money. And one day, one of my buddies from college comes into my office and he says, "Hey, Mitch, you're a lawyer. I'm a GC. I have an investor. He wants me to build self storage, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to run the models. I don't know how to tie it up." So he's like, "Want to be partners?" I'm like, "Sure. What is that?" So we basically just kind of went for it, and we went to the storage conference, and we tried to learn, but we ended up playing a lot of blackjack and hanging out in downtown Vegas. And so we tried learning, and we came back experts in self storage. And the guy called, my buddy calls me. He goes, "Mitch, our investor just died. We have no
Oh,
money." And he goes,
oh,
he's like, "What should we do?" And I said, "Well, we're already experts. Let's just keep going." So we started trying to raise capital. We tried to put it together, and it was hard. And we put it together, and I raised the capital. Eventually, he went off to do his own thing, and I just kept with it. And we had built one, two, three, four, and we just kept going. But it wasn't a stroke of genius. I kind of fell into it, and I recognized that it was an amazing asset class, and I just stuck with it.
I'm going to ask a pointed question here, man. When you find out your investor dies and you have $0, and all of a sudden you're faced with this task of like, because listen, 99.9% of people in the world at that point would have gone back to being a lawyer and let the deal die, right?
Right.
You don't have any money invested in it at that point. Yeah, you got time and you put some money into going to Vegas, but what is the decision in Mitch Feldman's head that says, you know what, I'm going to go raise this money? How do you make that decision?
That's I think I always talk about grit and grind and determination and perseverance, and I'm a big believer of like just putting your shoulder into it. And you gotta, there's a difference between grit and grind, and people always put them together, but it's really the the grit and the grind. The difference is one of with the grit is putting your shoulder through it and muscling through it. The grind is being able to bang your head against the wall every day, wake up the next day and do it again, just grinding it out, perseverance, never stopping.
Yeah.
And that's what really pushes you through it. And that's a personality thing. And it's also, the true definition of an entrepreneur is someone who pursues his objectives with complete disregard for where the resources are coming from. That's
Yeah.
really what an entrepreneur is. You
Love
see
it.
something and you need to seize it and grab it and make it happen. And you're not even thinking about where's the money coming from How am I going to get it built? Where am I going to get the tools to do it? You just see it and you have to do it. And, I still live by that. I mean, I'm still today, if you see what we talk about in the office every day, we don't know where the resources are coming for that next meal. So we're just going. So thank God today we're able to achieve it. But we're always shooting our sights on the next bigger thing and the bigger thing and more and growth, and we're shouldering through it. So I think that's what it is.
I have a question when I send out the link for people to sign up for the podcast, which are what's a book you're reading or have read? And you had three of them in there, which was the first time somebody ever put three of them down. I'm a big reader too, and I think you touched on something there about the idea of not limiting yourself, right? Like you don't put a boundary on what Mitch Feldman thinks he's going
Right.
to be able to do.
Yeah. And I mean, look, the it's funny because my wife laughs at me because the books that I read are they're always they're always those kind of books, like the ones where the long and short of it, the long and short roads, the quick and slow thinking,
Right.
grit. It's always like those are always the books that I'm reading, and they're not.
You're
You
not
know,
reading vampire romance
right?
novels.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
So it's always about getting to the next thing, the next step. How do you fight through it? How do you motivation?
It's funny as a 50-year-old, I spent a lot of my younger life not around entrepreneurs. And as a 50-year-old, something that I've really realized is that, for me, my first introduction to you, I saw you at a trade show. You guys got this really nice booth. You got a staff of 4 or 5 guys there. I see you on LinkedIn all the time. You got, and by the way, you're not building like, the industrial type storage anymore. You're building these beautiful 3, 4, 5 higher story.
Yeah,
They look like malls on the outside, right? They're
yeah,
beautiful storage facilities now. That's my first introduction to you. I see you're a Miami guy. I see you with boats behind you, and it's easy to think that this was easy for Mitch Feldman to have all this stuff when in reality,
yeah.
listen, 25 years ago when your investor died, you could have gone a completely different way.
Sure, sure. And it's really, we always say that sometimes I speak at these. I guess there's these students in high school or college, and sometimes I get invited to speak about just, I guess, business. And I always talk about how it's easy to look at someone and say, oh, he's successful, it's easy. But there's that whole road to get there. And I mean, it took a long time. I mean, this was not an easy road. And it's like what I said, you bang your head every day on the wall and you come back for more the next day. And I still do it, but it takes a lot. It is hard, and then you got to go through the cycles. Forget about the entitlement risk and the construction risk and the lease up risk. I mean, we're dealing with market risk
Oh,
that's completely out of our control. I mean, we have zero control of it,
yeah.
and we just can prepare for it. But it's hard. It's hard, and a lot of it's not in our control.
Is exactly where I was going to go when you were talking about that. Like we've had such a drastic, I always laugh. I say when Jerome Powell went to the podium, it was end of April, beginning of May 2022. And listen, we all kind of knew something was coming, but I don't think anyone envisioned, construction loans in the 9%, 10%
Yeah,
adjustable rate. It's sort of through, you're underwriting deals in 2021, 2022, thinking you're going to get construction debt at 6%. And all of a sudden it's 9.5%. For
sure.
people who don't understand, that's not like a couple $1,000 difference. You're talking about millions of dollars in the
Yeah,
difference of the cost of one of your projects, and you've already underwritten it. In a lot of cases, you already own the project, right? And so that mentality of being able to cope with those things, even 25 years into your
yeah.
career, what makes you get up again in the morning and listen, you've done a ton of deals. I don't know your situation, but it certainly seems like you're at a place in your life where you could say, hey, listen, I've done my piece. Let me go enjoy the boat. Why keep getting up and doing the next project? What motivates
It's
you to do that?
it's I think it becomes part of who you are, and I mean, I'm driven by it. I mean, last night, yesterday, I was out of the house at 6:15. I didn't get back till 11 at night. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's and I'm working. It's not that I'm messing around. I'm having a business dinner. I'm doing that. I'm actually working as hard as I've ever worked. And part of it is my son, who you've met, is in the business. I have three other kids. Four kids. They're all looking to maybe take a piece of the action. So I could either have slowed down or said, "Hey, look, let's build something that will be a family um, business, and let me spend time with my kids." So for me, it's about as you're getting older, it's you want to spend time with your family. I'm in the office all day long. Might as well make them be here with me, and they like it, so it's great.
So this is something I've heard about you, and I kind of knew it, just from I see your interactions with Jordan whenever we're at a trade show, and I see you guys together. I've been very fortunate in my life. I own another business that I took over from my father, who's now 80 years old, and I've gotten to kind of work with him for many
That's
years
great.
in that
Great.
business. Been to trade shows with him, so when I see you and Jordan, it
Yeah.
touches a place in my heart, and maybe one of the reasons I get along. I've talked to Jordan about this, why I vibe with him so well. The relationship you have with him is special. Like that's just apparent to see when you see not every father and son gets along in the way that you guys get along, and it's
Right.
very, very cool to see. So I guess I want to ask you, how important is that to you and your family, and being able to have that be a central aspect? I know it from everyone I've
Yeah.
talked to about Mitch Feldman. One of the things that I hear is that family is super important to him.
It's so everything. I'm driven by my family. That's my everything I do is for the family. That's my number one priority. So I mean, when I go wake up and I'm going to work and make money, it's not for me. It's for the family. Everything is driven by the family. And my father was a psychologist, and he was actually a child psychologist. So he was very. They actually say when your father's a psychologist, it's like you're through therapy your entire life. But he wasn't that kind of psychologist. He was very into his patients. He was very giving. He later in life he was actually just working for free, and he would just help people. And after he passed away, I'd hear stories. People
Wow.
would come over to me and say, "Your father saved my life."
Wow.
And I didn't even know who this guy was. He shows up up at my house after the funeral, and he's
Yep.
telling me, "Your dad saved my life." And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know who you are." He goes, "No, I know you don't know who I am, but your father was helping me." And there was one night where I called him at 2 in the morning, and he got in a car and drove to meet me at Denny's up in Fort Lauderdale, just on a phone call. So, I learned that people are important. It's important to be with people. I was very close with him. And when so I've always had that relationship with my kids. It's a priority for me. And, I have a close relationship with them. So it's really, you work on your marriage and on your kids just as much as you have to work on your business. A business doesn't come easy. You have to work on it. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the time with your wife. You got to put in the time with your kids, or it doesn't work. It's the same thing. You have to put in the time.
I love that too. And I would add that it's just as confusing sometimes what work to do as it is in self-storage. As someone who's been married for a long time, is sometimes trying to figure out the path to making that work actually
Sure,
work is
yeah,
very challenging.
you got to
Um,
put in the time.
love hearing that story, and really kind of reaffirms for me what my opinion of you has been like, and doesn't surprise me that would have come from those roots. So thank you so much for sharing that. Wanted to dig in a little bit to Miami. Like you're born and bred in
Yeah,
South Florida. Man, I was down in West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale a couple times in the last year. That area is absolutely insane. How much of an
yeah,
impact has like growing up and seeing the growth during really what's been your life, right? Really
yeah.
has been like a 60-year growth pattern that has just been unbelievable.
Sure. I mean, I've seen Miami change from look, at Lincoln Road, I used to take a tram up and down Lincoln Road with my grandparents, and then we'd stop at the candy store and buy little worm gummy candies and eat them on the tram while we're just right. Lincoln Road is a whole nother story now, right? I mean, downtown Miami, Brickell, it's amazing, and I've seen it from when. we've all seen Scarface, and at the beginning of Scarface, where they have Tent City under the expressway, I
Yeah.
remember driving over the expressway and seeing the tents. So I mean, I've seen it change a lot. In the '80s and every decade it had a boom, and
Yeah.
it's really, you talk to people in Miami, South Florida is in its second inning. I
Yeah.
mean, I think we're just getting going. I mean, they're building office towers. There's cranes everywhere again. And, will there be another bust at some point? Yeah, I'm sure. But, it just keeps going, and Miami's strong. I love being down
It's been interesting over the last couple of years to hear how much talk there is. I'm in with a lot of guys that are centered in New York City, and you're just seeing a lot of the financial power of New York City relocate to South Florida,
there. Sure.
which is an interesting thing to see. I happen to grow up 17 miles from a stoplight in a little country town. So for me, when I go down to West Palm Beach or to Fort Lauderdale, it's like the crowdedness is
Right,
overwhelming. I now live outside of Philadelphia, so I deal with the same thing.
right.
Going to pivot a little bit to Mitch Feldman and social media, and specifically LinkedIn. Like, you're one of the guys that I kind of, when I got into self storage, I was like, you know what? This is something I have to get into. I'd never really been involved in it a whole lot, and I saw you, man. You're on different job sites at least once a week. I see posts from you. You must be posting more than that, because that's just the ones that I see. Why has that been a central part of what you're doing, and why is that important to the Feldman companies?
Visiting the sites or social media?
Social media
So,
specifically.
so there was a point where I made a decision, and I said, you know what? You know, there's why keep what we're doing a secret, right? And if you look at my social media and read the content, we're not pitching for money. We're
Nope.
not pitching for investors. We're not pitching. We're really just out there saying, hey, look at what we're doing. We're building institutional quality assets, great locations. This is what's going on. All we're doing is really sharing our our projects, our team, our vision, and what we're doing. We're not getting into market details or interest rates. We're not giving philosophical advice. We're not giving business advice. We're just sharing what we're doing. That's our goal on social media, and it's just so that we can have FaceTime with our peers, and
Yeah.
our investors look at it, our lenders look at it, and our friends look at it. And I'll be walking around Miami, and someone I know will say, "Oh man, I just saw that. I saw it was cold in New
New
Jersey when
Jersey.
you were there." And
Yep.
it's really just letting people know what we're doing. And I, I'm sure we get a financial benefit out of it. It's because people probably think of us and maybe send us a deal. Maybe a lender says, "Okay, they're real guys, and we'll cut you a break on an interest rate. Maybe we'll give you a little extra leverage." I don't know, but
Right
it
now,
just
maybe might be we actually will approve some
yeah,
construction financing that we otherwise
right.
wouldn't.
I don't know, but we're just out there showing what we're doing, and I think it keeps us in contact with the people that we're doing business with.
I listen. I'm a layman. I'm not any great shakes to be a arbiter of this deal, but it's refreshing for me to see all your content and not then get a direct message from you asking if I want to do business with you. So I appreciate the way you go about that a lot, and I can just say from my side of it, look, at perception is reality, right? At a
Right.
certain point, if I see Mitch Feldman in four different states in front of four different projects, you're doing stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that's the long and short of it. And anyone that, I haven't been in this game a long time, but I've been in it long enough to know that if you got four different job sites going on, you've got some investments happening, right?
Yeah.
These are not $200,000. These are not $2 million projects, right? These
No.
are these
Yeah.
are 8-figure projects
Oh
every
yeah.
single day.
Yeah.
And so it adds a certain level of credibility for sure.
Yeah. We're doing a lot. I mean, it's a funny story. When we first started doing the social media, the lady who helps us, um, all of a sudden I see that, like, we're following more people and we're getting more things like that. And I said to her, what's going on? And she goes, "Oh, I'm trying to get more followers and more likes." I said, "No, no, no. Don't do that. I said all I want to do is whoever's following us, let them follow us. I'm
Right.
not looking to
Yeah.
grow our base and get random people to start liking our stuff. That's not my goal. I just want my people who are into what we're doing, who choose to follow us and naturally follow us, let them see what we're doing and keep it like that. So we shut that off, and I purposely didn't let her like market us that way.
Yeah.
And it was important to me. I didn't want to like be cheap and start doing direct messaging and all that stuff. That wasn't my goal.
Love it, love it, love it. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit you don't know this. I was born and raised in New England. I'm not a native of New Jersey,
Okay.
but I happen to grow up. I happen to live, excuse me, not grow up, a half a mile from the site you just finished in Maple Shade, New Jersey, which came up. It was so much fun to watch the construction happen very, very quickly. You got caught in that whole the yellow life storage building, and all of a sudden,
Oh
extra
my god.
space buys out life storage. I
Yeah.
can only imagine that added a layer of fun to that whole development project.
Yeah. Yeah. We had
But
the funny story with that is that originally we were talking to CubeSmart about managing it. So I always build all my doors interior white,
yep,
and for some reason the architect put on the plans red doors. So
yep,
I didn't catch it. So I'm thinking I'm getting white
uh,
doors. I show up and it was gonna be an extra, it was gonna be a life. So
yep.
it was yellow. So I get there and I see all these red doors. So I called Dale and I'm like, Dale, I got red doors for the life building. He goes, it's okay. And then later it's like we put the yellow doors on the windows, and then all of a sudden it's extra space. So I got
Hey,
red doors, I got yellow exterior. We had to paint them wasabi green, and there were still some yellow doors on the side. So I had red, green, and yellow doors on this building.
you got a Salvador Dali painting for your
Yeah,
for your self storage facility. That's fantastic.
yeah.
I was going somewhere with this. I grew up in New England, diehard New England Patriots fan. You are a huge Miami Dolphins fan.
I am.
So I have to say, I can remember the day that the Patriots selected Tony Eason in the NFL draft. And that's been, listen, it's been a long, long time, right? That was the Dan Marino draft. We
For
selected Tony
sure.
Eason, I think 10 or 12 picks in front of Dan Marino. I'm still pissed off like 30 some years later. I just want to let you know that.
Okay. Well, I mean, these Dolphins have a love hate relationship over there, with you guys.
We did all right in the long run. It all worked out in the
Yeah,
grand scheme of things. But man, watching Dan Marino play for that 10, 12, 15 years, what an
yeah,
otherworldly football player. I can only imagine what it would have been like if he had played, 15, 20 years later when the rules were changed such that you couldn't touch the quarterback anymore.
right. But we have Tom Brady building a house here in Miami now. It's
Nice. Yep. He had to get out of the cold weather. I'm trying to get there. My wife is trying to convince me to get to Florida as soon as is humanly possible. You also something I absolutely love, and I don't get to do it as much as you do, but I'll go down to the shore. I live an hour from the Jersey Shore,
yeah,
and just put my feet in the sand, just to break away from the office. You're an ocean guy too. You're a person that loves to be on a boat or
absolutely,
love the jet
absolutely.
ski. What is it about that for you?
You know what? I don't know when I get on the water, everything just clears. The salt water, the salt air, the breeze. So I mean, we have the boat and we have the jet ski. So there'll be times where I'll come home, maybe like early one day and no one's home, my wife's not home, the house is empty, and I'll just I'll put on some shorts, get on the jet ski, and this thing's like a water motorcycle. I mean, this thing flies. So I'll just get out there and I'll be like a little kid, popping waves behind big boats and just jumping waves. People are yelling at me, and I'm like zipping around boats and cutting boats off. So I mean, I'll go out there and just have fun and just let it out, and it's great. I mean, it's just a great release. I mean, everyone has something that they do, whether they go to the gym. I mean, I work out in the morning, but I mean, everyone's got something, right? So the jet ski and the boat are amazing.
I think that's so interesting. You talked earlier about the grind and the grit, right? The quite frankly, we're looking at right now. You're building 100,000 square foot storage facility. You're 16, 18, $20 million project.
Yeah,
to have that place where you can go. And it's the same for me. Like when I get to the shore and my feet go in the sand, all that pressure and all that
Yeah.
stress, for whatever reason, it just washes away, right?
Until your phone rings. Right.
Listen, I have been on Zoom calls with my laptop sitting with my feet in the sand. I'll say this, that
Right.
call is much more fun to take when you're on the ocean than it is when you're sitting in the office.
That's the grind.
Yeah, for sure. So what's next for the Feldman companies? I know you guys got a big project going on down in Miami and town Miami. You got Voorhees up here just opened and Maple Shade just opened. What's
So we
what's
don't we don't announce the projects that we have until they're fully approved. So we
nice?
have we have a lot of stuff that's coming very shortly. So we have three that's in construction right now. We have a fourth right now that's breaking ground, and we'll have a groundbreaking ceremony in about this month, next month, and we have three more monsters that are getting ready to come out of the ground.
Love it.
So we'll break ground on those within the next 4 months, 5 months, probably the last 3, 4 months.
So I would be remiss if I didn't kind of finish up here. We're coming close to the end of a 30-minute window that I try and keep these to. But you talked earlier about cycles, right? And we've definitely hit a cycle where it's just getting more challenging, especially for ground up development
Yeah.
to make things pencil. What's your overall outlook on the industry, specifically on ground up development? How do you see things going for the next few years?
So I believe, and I've always believed that real estate is a slow game. It's not, we're not stock traders, we're not day traders. If you want to create wealth in real estate, it takes time and patience. And everything we do takes patience. The entitlements take a year, 2 years. One of these that I'm talking about took us 2.5 years to get site plan approved, and we finally got it. So, it takes patience. You have to build. The construction time takes patience and time. Lease up in this business takes patience. So, you're talking about just to get something from concept to leased up, it's what, 5, 6, it's 6 years, right? I mean, it's 6 years from then when you first sit down and go to try making an LOI on a project and getting to stabilization. It's a good 6 years,
Yeah.
and in a best case scenario, right? So maybe 5. So it's a slow game. So if you're going to watch every day what's happening to interest rates, and you're going to watch every day and wait for that construction to the construction costs to come down again, you're dreaming, and that's not how it works. I mean, construction costs consistently go like this. I mean, yeah, there's ups and downs as you go, but over time, it's a line. Uh, Real estate values every asset over time. It goes like this. So time, there's the fluctuations in between, and maybe you can't. Maybe you're a smart guy and you catch the down market and you ride it up and you sell at the right time and you miss the down cycle. But I just don't. I don't look at that. I don't look at it that way. It's a slow game. So I have slow, patient partners. We have slow, patient developer. I'm not in a rush. I'll go out of my boat. I'll take it easy and just let it just go. I'll put my shoulder into it, grind it out, and just keep going.
I'm so happy I asked you that question because that was such a fantastic answer, and I haven't heard somebody put it the way you put it. So really, really insightful, and I appreciate you sharing that. Listen, as I said, I always trying to keep this to 30 minutes. I'm a little bit over with you. I could keep talking to you for another hour, no problem. Hopefully, sometime in the future we could do this again. I got a whole bunch of stuff I didn't even touch on yet,
Thank you.
but want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. You're a good man. I love seeing you. You always got a smile. You're always there. You're in the game, and I appreciate you. You're doing good things.
Appreciate that so much. I know you guys are always looking for development opportunities. If people do want to get in touch with Mitch Feldman, what's the best way to do it?
I'm easy to find.
I can,
Google Mitch
yeah,
Feldman. Feldman Company is Mitch at the Feldman Company is www.thefeldmancompanies.com. I'm an easy guy to locate. Easy.
love it, love it. Listen, I'm Thaddeus Campbell, Mitch Feldman. Thanks for
Thanks,
joining
buddy.
me. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Self Storage Made Simple, which is kind of a funny title after you get done just listening to Mitch and I, because it's anything but simple. But we try to break it down a little bit, make it a little bit easier for those that are trying to get through the door. Mitch, I'll see you very soon, I'm sure. And again, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank
See
you,
you guys
brother.
all next week.
Be good.
Appreciate you, brother.